Okay, what the heck? StreamYard's just have changed their entire layout and I can't find the intro clip. What the hell?
They do that occasionally, yeah.
Why does StreamYard do these things? I don't.
I'm looking for it. I'm like, is this it? And it's like, no, that's the intro loop. And I'm like, what's freaking hell, StreamYard?
Well,
welcome. Yeah,
there you go.
To the Culture Crusade, everyone. It's good to be back. We'll see how we go. We might not go full length time. I have a flight to catch, as I was mentioning to the gentleman here. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we got some topics. Look, I'm almost tempted to just dive into the main one right away because there's some things to discuss about it. Have you seen the comments about Superman?
Yeah, that's it's about an immigrant and it's political.
Comments from whom, Shad?
James Gunn. He's made some comments about Superman, and I think the article from that Park Place kind of goes through it quite well. So let's have a look here. So James Gunn confirms Superman is about politics and decline of American kindness, and says, screw them to jerks who get offended.
That sounds like he's trying to offend people.
Yes. So it's like,
well, the idea of like we need to have decency and kindness sounds good in the Superman movie, but it's their perception of what kindness is. So, kindness would be, okay, we're going to do something nice for somebody that we don't really have to do. But their perception of kindness is like the great degradation of kindness on our part is that we have border security. That's at all. So there's not a lot of border security, but anything.
There's a functional disagreement between truth, justice, and the American way, or all that stuff, and kindness. Sometimes the truth simply is not kind.
Well, that is actually correct. So it seems like people, especially on the left, they want people to be nice. They have a difference between what they understand to be kindness and niceness. And there is that saying, as you just mentioned, Mike, that sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. Is that the saying? Where
truth sucks, don't it? You ever heard that? Truth hurts, don't it?
Truth hurts.
They keep coming out with what about Judge Not? Remember Judge Not? Well, yeah, it's not the entire passage. It's kind of like the first couple of words. It says, don't judge unless you're prepared to judge by your own standards. Be judged by your own standards.
It means judge righteously is essentially.
Yeah, it means don't be a hypocrite.
Don't be a hypocrite and judge righteously. And so there has been this mindset that I've noticed, not necessarily just on the left, but also perpetuating the world, that it is wrong for you to hold opinions if they upset someone, if it offends someone, right? Because that means you're cruel. For instance, if you believe that there are only two genders, that can deeply offend and upset someone. That is a cruel view to have. You're a nasty person for simply holding true to
science,
the opinions of biology,
right? reality.
And they get deeply offended, and then they will judge you as being a nasty person for merely holding an opinion like that, when you don't mean anything malicious by it. That's literally a truth that you believe. And then they can lose their mind. And there are multiple examples about this, whether what your stance is on homosexual marriage, and then to climate change, to any number of like these
vaccines.
Oh yes, the efficacy of stuff. And what I find interesting is like people hold certain opinions not to upset people. These are just their views that they have. Okay. And that is considered cruelty. Yet the type of actions that certain people who get offended by such opinions throw against, the people that they think are the evil ones, right? That is where I see some of the largest amounts of unkindness, cruelty, where they just tried to get people's, lives ruined. and get them fired from their jobs and everything like that. And in that, we're seeing like a lack of kindness in the world for this essentially a lack of empathy for use everything like that. I would agree there. It's like, yeah, I think there's a lack of kindness in the world in that regard.
Information W's.
But the unkindness comes from the intolerant crowd who's constantly preaching about tolerance.
Yeah, this is the what was it? They keep using the word empathy, but I don't think they know what that word means. I don't think it means what they think it means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kindness towards us, but not you.
Yeah. And so just what we had a chat, someone mentioned here, they conflate kindness with niceness. Now,
it's fakeness, fake nice. It's like the surface level kindness versus niceness is kindness to them.
Niceness,
you'll never find in the scripture, thou shalt be nice.
This is correct. That's certain. Sometimes actual acts of kindness, like if someone believes that they are of the opposite,
if they have a mental health problem,
right? But some people actually believe that using someone's pronouns that is wrong, separate, different to their biological gender, right, is an act of cruelty because it perpetuates something that ultimately doesn't lead to, well, if you look at the statistics, it doesn't always lead to nice outcomes by indulging in those,
It leads to a lot of Minecraft.
A lot of Minecraft?
42% Minecraft.
42% Minecraft. No, but this is my honest, genuine belief. I think one of the best ways to help people who have gender dysphoria and struggle with that is to try and find a way for them to be satisfied, content with their biology, with who they are, happy with who they are, without needing to undergo serious surgeries or anything like that. That is a belief I have. And I'm not trying to be cruel or mean if it upsets people, but that is a belief that I feel is a kinder treatment to people with different beliefs. That is me feel like trying to be kind, yet many people will believe that is cruelty and mean and nasty and I'm a terrible person. And they are, as the commenter said, they conflate kindness and niceness, where they want people to be nice. And niceness just means don't upset people, effectively. Never, you just need to be nice.
Don't ruffle any feathers.
I think being nice is...
You have to choose whether or not you're upset.
Well, this is actually correct. That's something that people don't realize. Taking offense, everyone, is a choice you make. Technically, if you actually believe in free will, okay, no one has the power to offend you against your without you choosing to take offense. Essentially, you choose to do it, and you also have the power to choose to not be offended. Now, that's not to say that I think offense is never warranted. I think some things, are perfectly worthy to be offended by, especially if malicious intent was there, right? And so malicious intent, this goes into another kind of thing that I think about, is that I don't have any malicious intent with the beliefs I have, right? And I'm not trying to be cruel or any means like that, or to make someone unhappy by those beliefs. But then there are actions that people can undertake with malicious intent, with a pure intent to upset people or to ruin their lives. And so I think when someone acts with malicious intent, that's probably a bit more grounds to take offense at something. Just some thoughts on that. So going back to Superman, right? It's like, okay, interesting. Is about politics and the decline of American kindness. So it's going to depend on how they portray this in the film. And I have a feeling, just by who we're dealing with, James Gunn, there's very left-leaning people, and also what we've seen from the promotion of the film, that the nastiness that they're going to portray is going to be a caricature of people being critical online.
I would also like to point out, I've been around in this country for 53 years, and I can't remember the American kindness thing, because I grew up in a time where the snowflakes didn't melt so easily. And people threw around a lot of insults. We're in this era now of the most just butthurt crybaby generation. that's ever existed. So when was this American kindness generation he's talking about?
Do you remember like in 2014, 15, or 16 when they announced for college students to have like this? I think it was the original safe space. It was a safe space, and the college students were allowed in this safe space, and it was like you could play with Play-Doh and like crayons. I was like, what is this nonsense?
It was preschool.
What the hell is this?
Yeah, preschool for 20-year-olds.
Preschool daycare for 20-something-year-olds. Like, what the hell is this? So yeah, this is the mentality where it's coming from. The safe space mentality.
Yeah,
what is being offended? Why are you being so mean?
It seems like that. It seems like the conceptualization of kindness for the left is coddling people and never and never forcing them into anything that they are uncomfortable with or offended by. And we see it so much. Like, if you see those conversations,
unless they're Christians.
Well, you see this
also
in how they write
the double standard is amazing. But have you seen those interviews where someone starts to interview someone and then they start to challenge their beliefs, and the person getting interviewed is like, "I'm uncomfortable with this.
How dare you?"
And it's like, "How dare you confront me with things that are challenging my worldview? That is cruel. That is mean." And they start to cry. Because how dare someone challenge them in anything?
It's kind of the difference between watching an interview with Trump and an interview with Kamala Harris. It's like very, very different. They have no issue challenging him.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
I'm speaking. Excuse me. I love when we turn it on her. Like, excuse me, I'm speaking. Boom. Elected president. It was great stuff.
This is like the conceptualization. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so if I'm a bit brain dead today.
Well, Shad, could you imagine like in this definition of kindness, if you had a friend who was a complete drunkard and his life was falling apart because of his alcoholism, like his wife left him, his kids don't want to see him anymore, the kind thing to do, according to them, would be to buy him some more alcohol, because saying that, hey, you have a problem, is offensive. He'll get angry. He'll get offended. And that you don't want to do that. It's rustling too many feathers. So, I mean, that's mean to point out that he has a problem. So
you've touched on something that's actually kind of key to the philosophy that we've been seeing in the modern day, where the modern day is all about validation. Validating people who they are. You need to validate their sexual identity. You need to validate their gender expression. You need to validate their sexual kinks, even everything like that. Because how dare anyone say that you are not perfect the way you are, which is fundamentally contrary to the Christian standard. Well, the Christian standard is like, no, everyone's actually imperfect, and everyone
no kink shaming, Shad. No kink shaming.
You must validate who I am. It is that goes into that stupid saying, I hate it, but it's my truth. It's like, no. There is not your truth. There is the truth, the objective truth, and then your opinion. And if your opinion is wrong, I do not need to validate.
Wait, did you just use the word objective, Shad? Oh my goodness!
Oh,
I don't think it's a coincidence that they hate objectivity in art either, because there is every person I've ever heard speak about art, every writer, every artist I've heard an interview from, talks about art from an objective standard. Like, here's a point where here's what you have to do, how you have to write it. Every editor kind of has the same thing. Here's how you have to have the structure here. But the only people I've heard dismiss the idea of any sort of objectivity in art are these art bros. Like, no, it's all about how you feel and stuff. So, I mean, not actual artists. So yeah, it's very telling.
That's where we get the slop reality of modern art, where, people just will make abject crap, right? And
it's a psyop, dude.
It's actually, artistic, and it's really meaningful, because there are, and people, I actually genuinely think people create meaning when they want it to be something to be special when it's not. And so they just invent it, and it's meaningful to me. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like people's taste can be subjective, but no, I think there are absolutely objective qualities in art. Kind of reminds me of the tweet that you shared, and I bookmarked it. I want to find this one you shared. Oh, here it is. So I saw this tweet of yours, Litdev, and I quite liked it.
This one got some attention.
Yeah. So So I don't know who the original tweeter is, the Fresher Luke, where they share people's reactions to a character in The Watchmen, where the guy who made it is like a complete like lefty progressive type guy. How far left is he, Litdev? Do you know? Like,
I mean, Alan Moore, he's a communist tattoo, I think.
Communist, all right, you know, right?
Is he a witch too or something?
He's a wizard. He's a mad wizard of comics. He's a good writer, like really good writer.
He's never late.
He's a really good writer. What was it? But that's about it. He's also a mad wizard, so he actually does believe in magic. If you read the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen after Volume 2, it's a really interesting look into his psyche, because one of the new main characters he adds is a guy that transforms from man to woman and from woman to man again, and Quatermain is now gay. So it's interesting turn of events.
All
so
right.
He's a little weird side, but I mean, he is also a genius writer.
Mm-hmm. Well, he doesn't seem to understand certain basic principles of writing and certain, like, what people will gravitate to and identify with, because in this picture it says Moore recalls thinking that Rorschach would be seen as a satirical character. In spite of giving the masked figure an abhorrent personality, Moore admits that he failed to realize people in the audience would find such a figure admirable. Moore even describes his surprise when he discovered Watchmen had a large right-wing fan base. In his boldest declaration, Moore says that if his stories can be that misinterpreted, it does make you wonder that what the point of doing it was. And it's like, sir, maybe they are not the ones misinterpreting it. Maybe you do not understand human nature.
He's actually made this great thing by accident.
And the message that you put in, because one of the responders like wrote, says, what? People actually like a vigilante that brutalizes criminals and kills murderous pedophiles? I'm going insane!
Oh, and also doesn't want to commit mass murder to establish a lie.
Yes, right. It's like,
that's the bad guy part.
Yeah, and he's unbending in his morals.
Yeah, how can he not understand why people would appreciate certain things about Rorschach? But he does, and it's like, you know, maybe it's not people misinterpreting your message. Maybe it's you not understanding what you've written, sir.
Also, basically, even on a fundamental level of writing, Rorschach is also like he's been abused. He has a tragic backstory, like very edgelord tragic backstory. He's poor, like he lives in squalor. So he's out of all the people in Watchmen, he's the one that really struggles the most. He's like from the bottom, the dregs. So he's the one, because he's the one that struggles the most. He's the one we kind of like to cheer on them. He's the most underdog. You know, he's like the guy kind of on his own. Everyone has left him, has betrayed him. His partner, Night Owl, is just like some guy who lives in an apartment. Now everyone else is comfortable. Like Laurie and Dr. Manhattan, they're being provided for by the government. His former partner, Night Owl, is just some guy living comfortably. Everyone else is just fine, right where they are. Rorschach is the only guy who's still struggling against evil, who's still out there on the dregs of society, kind of dealing with it all. So his struggle is what we like. Because look, when we watch like a sports movie or something like that, it's not like the victory is all that it is. But what's inspiring about athletes or whatever you're watching is the hero is the one that struggles. It's his valiant struggle against
overcoming adversity. People relate to that because
you say that in German
on Earth. Every single person on Earth has adversity in their lives, and the goal is to overcome it. And we get inspired by people that show that it's possible, that if you just don't give up and you try your very best, you can triumph. And that's the uplifting message behind, even people who do sports and things. Sorry to cut you off, Lid. Have we say something else that you wanted to mention?
That's about it. It's just how it goes with this character. Is kind of like, it's a struggle that if whether it be Rorschach or any hero, any main character, the struggle is what it is inspiring to us, and the actual victory is the catharsis, the climax. Yeah, it's fun to see that occur, but it's only powerful because of the struggle that came before it.
But isn't the struggle also just because he refuses to compromise?
Yeah, he refuses to come in even the face of Armageddon.
That is this great moral characteristic that most people fail at because they will compromise for comfort.
They all compromise at the end. Like, also, okay, we hate this, but we have no choice. We're going to run with this lie. And Rorschach is the only one who goes, no, can't do that.
Yeah,
you're going to kill me. And he actually does say the line, never compromise even in the face of Armageddon. He just doesn't do it at the end. He does earlier in the book. But that line is in there. So that is part of his mentality. Never compromise, even in the face of Armageddon.
And so, Litdev, you say the whole conservatives can't make art assertion becomes amusing when you realize that so much of the greatest things made by leftists were made entirely by accident.
Apparently so. Yeah, because there's a whole this whole assertion up there because of if you're right wing, you can't make art, which is, I mean, that's very, very misleading and very disingenuous. I would say too.
Should I stop drawing now then? Because I'm right wing.
Because the thing is, you might, like, everyone you see in mainstream American media might be left wing, but because you're not really allowed to be right wing in America.
Oh yeah, they kick you out.
Not openly, yeah.
Yeah, not openly. You have to be quiet about it. So
right. So it's kind of like if you're quiet about it, you can be pretty sure that person's right wing.
And that's usually how it goes. Like if they don't talk about politics or anything like that, then they're probably going to be either center right or right wing all the way.
Right.
Seems
I don't
like
talk about politics. Voted for Trump.
Well, speaking of politics, back onto Superman. And so the discussion of a message about kindness, I'm not necessarily opposed to if it's done right. What I was leading to before is that what it seems to be in the film, as what we've seen, is that the kindness that they're going to be talking about is toxicity online. And that can go either way. But in terms of the film, doesn't Luthor have like an army of monkeys that are like, you know...
According to what I've heard, yeah, it's kind of, that's the idea. That can be some mutant monkeys that tweet all day or something.
Tweet all day, post online, attacking Superman and things. Now, I do agree that internet kind of cancel mobs and hate campaigns and everything like that is off the rails, and social media is just exasperating those issues. And in that sense, I think people can actually do a lot better, because I see way too much. I think it's happened to each and every one of us at some point, where people will go ballistic at you for what is like in the larger scheme of thing a meaningless opinion. It doesn't actually have any moral weight to it. It's just a view of something. And in my own cases, people have attacked me because I dared to say that the artistic style, not the animation. The animation's great, but I think the actual way the faces are constructed and stuff like that in Studio Ghibli, it's a little plain. That's just my take. It's nothing like, I think, malicious in that. And you can disagree with me. That's fine. I'm more than happy to have a discussion about that, right? But I find it bizarre that people would choose to hate someone for an opinion like that. The other one is because, of course, my views on AI art. And that can get a little bit more complicated because people think AI art is like art specifically. It's immoral, it's theft. And I've shared my opinion multiple times with videos and even essays. And so I was like, no, according to the letter of the law, it's not theft. In actual fact, it's very equivalent to what most humans have done throughout human history in regards to learning off of previous works and things. But
you know what's funny? This thing I'm drawing right now, this is a commission for somebody, but the reference he gave me, and this is for, I think he's doing a comic book or a book or something. The reference he gave me was designed in AI.
Oh.
And I love the way AI designs stuff. Like,
yeah,
running through and just, you could do 50 different versions of a thing and just like steal a little bit from this one, a little bit from, because that's what you're doing when you're designing anything. You're stealing from other people. So it's like AI steals it first, and then
it's great the concepting. Like the one that I've seen recently, where I think it's just another sign of the internet going ballistic over something that honestly, like, it's an opinion. You might dislike the guy or the way he goes about it, but the amount of hate I think can get lobbed at someone goes a bit extreme. Is the Stop Killing Games controversy and pirate software. Have you been seeing any of that talked about online recently, gentlemen?
Oh yeah, definitely. I recently learned about it because of the controversy, but it's great. It's a fantastic movement. And
yeah, I think the movement is awesome, and I do not agree with pirate software with his criticisms of it. And it seems people like hate the guy, particularly for what the arrogance that he is shown in defending it. And I was like, oh, okay, I think
absolute arrogance and like trying to knock. It's really funny because the backlash has like resulted in like people finding his real voice and stuff. It's like oh, his real voice is not this deep voice; it's nasally. And also, he didn't work for Blizzard. He was like a play tester or something. Like he wasn't a developer or anything like that. And people were like, "Hey, what about your game? Remember that game you were making? What about that? Like you're just doing a Mark Kern over here, whatever his name is, Grums. Like they had the same thing with Grums. Yeah, it's like they always mention his game too. They both work at Blizzard, and they both get the accusation. Oh, were you the breast milk guy? Like he's getting all the stuff dumped on him.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I wonder if it's going too far in that sense. Now, you can dislike the guy, especially if you don't like his personality or attitude, right? But for me, looking at this from, a further out kind of perspective, ultimately, he doesn't agree with an initiative and is entitled to not agree with it. I disagree with him. I think the Stop Killing Games initiative is brilliant because I can't stand what developers are doing where you don't they sell you a game, but you don't really get to own it. And then they can
revoke it anytime.
Revoke it.
What was the crew that they kind of shut down? And it wasn't just like the multiplayer. They shut down the servers and you couldn't even play it single play anymore. So you bought the game, you can no longer play it at all. And then you have these things the controversy with the Switch 2 where they're all bricking because they did something to the console that the Nintendo didn't like, so your system is bricked. And what's even worse is that people are getting these bricked systems and they're returning it or sending it back, and then those stores are not checking them, and so they're refurbishing these bricked Switch 2s and selling them to people, and they get home, it's like it doesn't work. I think I heard recently that Brazil is suing over this. The entire country of Brazil is suing over this.
I mean, there are some insane anti-consumer practices that's been going on in the gaming sphere for a while now, and I think it's good to push back. I'm not necessarily so on board with asking daddy government to solve the issue because they'll probably just make it worse, especially the EU. Holy crap. You expect the EU to do anything useful for,
You remember the console wars? Like, I think a long time ago, I think Xbox One or something, they were trying to, what their original idea is that we're going to not have a disc tray and we're going to have always online. You have to always be online with the system. So even if you want to play your single player games, you have to be online. So if you ever got disconnected from your internet, you could not play your Xbox at all. And also, because there's no discs, you have to buy and download all your games from the store directly to your Xbox. And so that quickly went away because everyone's like, no, it's dumb. That's really stupid. So they did away with that, but they were going to do that. So the idea is that all these developers are looking for ways to really gouge the customer and screw over the customer. And the only thing keeping them moral and at bay is the moral outrage. Yeah, just like, no, we're not going to buy this. I'm not going to buy a torture device for myself. I'm going to spend $100 on a device and you can just revoke it anytime.
The free market always wins.
But that's where they really want to go with it. They want to sell you things that they can revoke your right to use it at any time if you did do anything they don't like. Yeah. And so what is it called? Stop Killing Games. It's a really good stance against that.
Good initiative. Yes. Yeah. It's good that they're trying to push back, and especially what they want to achieve in the sense of if there is an online game that wants to discontinue support, right? There should be, I would almost think, I don't like, daddy government, but a legal precedent to release kind of the ability to run servers of those games to the community. It has to go out, and they've purchased the game. And so if someone wants to run local servers for it, then they should be allowed to. I think
the result is that they want to, if you're sunsetting the game, they want the developers to just release the code to the public so that the people can just have the code.
Yeah, exactly. And what would they lose by doing that? Like, really, they're not going to be using it for anything apart from maybe pulling some assets from it at future things, but they rarely do that. And so
they lose the ability to police it, so that if somebody starts making mods where your characters are all running around naked and stuff,
they're doing that anyway. I get it. And no, I've never seen a game developer get sued or got into any legal trouble for mods that are made by the community people, because obviously everyone knows, no, that wasn't made by the developer. It's not on them. They don't have legal liability for that. So again, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do it, apart from I don't know, being overly predictive. Now that goes, I already think copyright goes too far, and I think more things should enter open source far sooner than not. And that just goes into the same kind of stance that I have in regards to video games and other things like that, especially discontinued games. Yeah, I'll open source that stuff if you're never going to use it again. I'll let people still enjoy it and benefit from it. But like I was saying, right, I agree with the initiative behind it, the purpose behind it. But I do think, if a guy disagrees with it, you don't have to hate him for it. You can dislike him for his arrogance and other things. But if
I think the reason why people hated, the reason why people hate Pirate Software so much is because he wasn't mere disagreement. He was actively lying about it. He was mischaracterizing the entire movement. From the bottom up, the guy who behind the movement had EFAP the video. Is like, no, this is all lies. What the hell are you doing? He's like just making stuff up.
Was it malicious lies, or he was just grossly ill-informed, and then he doubled down because
he doubled down because at first it was like a live stream. It was like, okay, maybe it wasn't well researched, and then he got angry and tripled down, making like an edited video saying, no, this is awful. I don't do it, because the idea is like, so no more online games. You want every online game to cater to single player mode, so that later, it's just lie after lie after lie after lie, and that's why it provoked so much backlash against him. But now, since the backlash was so in favor of the movement, people are trying to cope by saying, "Oh, it was 4D chess." He just opposed it so that people would go against him and they would sign the petitions.
Well, that's just an example of, I think, online hate going probably too far. And there are many examples where we could all agree it goes too far. And it depends if Superman is going to discuss something like that. I think you could absolutely do a Superman story that has something like that. And guess what? I also think you could potentially do a Superman story that does get a little political. But it's all about the execution. Okay, the politics that I think everyone is perfectly fine with and have celebrated in the past is our universal morals that we all not only appreciate, but we want encouraged and promoted.
Universal... Like slap a jab.
No, mate.
Oh,
remember,
we're going back to the
that'd be really funny. That'd be a really good subversion of expectations. If this is Superman that can change his face to look like a Japanese guy, like he did in the comics, get himself buck teeth and stuff like that. Oh, look, I can blend in.
I actually would not be opposed for that being one of Superman's powers. No, the reason being, I've always had trouble with the fact that Kryptonians are aliens and they look exactly like humans. And I was like, if they actually looked at somewhat alien-like, but Superman had the ability to slightly morph his face to appear human, that would just make more sense to me. Or they need to explain it that humans and Kryptonians have a joint kind of evolutionary chain, that we either have a shared ancestor or something like that. So I need an explanation for the world building because it doesn't make sense.
Yes, being able to change your face a little bit, or change your appearance, would make sense. Like he could look human, or he could change his appearance entirely and look Japanese.
Sure, why not?
Hey, wait a minute. I resemble that remark.
I like when he changes his face, he gets glasses too. He gets like the whole stereotype.
Okay, the reason why people are getting triggered by James Gunn's statement about Superman being political are the type of politics, all right? Because there are universal morals that we all think is great, universal practices that even our government stuff and everything like that. Like Superman, one of the previous films, got pretty political when it came to nuclear disarmament. Which one was that? Superman 3?
Yeah,
it was the one where he with Nuclear Man, right?
Where he starts to throw the nukes into the sun, and there's a big message about nuclear disarmament, and that got pretty political, right?
Yeah, and it sucked.
You didn't like it?
No,
mm-hmm.
I didn't like it as a kid. I thought it was the freaking worst Superman ever.
I did. It's been too long since I've seen that one, right? I mean, I have views about concerns of nuclear weapons anyway. I think more people can kind of, at least sympathize with the message of the film, even if it wasn't done well.
Right? Yeah, but it was shoehorning a political story. And even as a kid who was not politically aware, I realized how freaking stupid that was. I mean,
I need to rewatch it because you might be right. Honestly, maybe it wasn't. I was a kid, and so I was like, Superman, yay! But maybe that was actually far more jarring than I realized.
I was a slightly older kid.
Yeah,
so.
You're a slightly older kid.
I'm what, 9 years older than you, right?
Oh, at least. All I know, Mike, is that you're ancient and you look like you're an immortal.
That is because I am a Japanese. You know what? I just saw a picture of all like the existing Supermen minus Henry Cavill, and oddly enough, you know who looked the youngest? Dean Cain.
Dean Cain.
He's probably the oldest one.
All right, so politics in media, right? It's not that everyone is necessarily opposed to it. It's that are you injecting subversive political propaganda that panders to one side? That's what people have a concern.
And current politics.
Current politics. Right. And then he drops the whole immigration thing, and it's like, wait. You're already going into some really, I could say problematic territory, because that is a charged word that people misinterpret all the time, because they try and attack that. Everyone on the right has issues with immigration. It's like, no. The thing, illegal immigration, yes, but legal immigration. And I've seen very few people on the right have a problem with legal immigration, but illegal immigration. Okay, those are two very different things. Okay.
Right. And it's like the difference between being mad at somebody for jumping the line and jumping over the fence at Disneyland and somebody paying to get in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so let's read what Sam Gunn says, because he basically says, look, it's going to be political. It's a story about an immigrant, Superman being an immigrant. And it's like, well,
it seems like almost like government, like company mandate. Like, okay, we have to push the agenda that he's an immigrant. Say that he's an immigrant. So, like, okay, James Gunn, here's your assignment. You have to switch your movie. You have to add into the movie that he's an immigrant, and you have to emphasize it, because we got to Trump,
guys, because Superman is an immigrant. What would you? Because there's a class of immigrants that is actually fleeing their country being destroyed by war. Asylum seekers. Okay,
I think if your planet is blowing up,
yes,
you're a valid asylum seeker.
I think Superman qualifies for being an asylum seeker, and not just being classed as an immigrant. Like, there are so many false equivalents to trying to use Superman as an allegory or message to justify illegal immigration. That's where people are going to have a problem with. And so Gunn says that his version of Superman won't shy away from commentary. It's like, okay, dude, if you're going to try and draw like an analogy or a comparison between Superman effectively being an asylum seeker to illegal immigration, you are subverting and co-opting the Superman franchise for political propaganda, and people are going to be pissed, especially if it's clunky, shoehorned nonsense that you're forcing in.
Tom Taylor's doing the same crap in the comics.
Superman is the story of America, Gunn said, though it should also be noted that Gunn and DC have taken extreme care to omit Superman's classic American way motto from the film's promotion. Yeah, what was that line? Like, he says the truth, justice, and you know the rest. But I can't say it, guys. But you know you saw that in one of the interviews? And then he's like, he's an immigrant that came from other places and populated the country. Other places and populated the country? Hang on, what? Superman didn't.
Immigrants, those are pioneers.
Yeah.
Those are pioneers.
But Superman didn't populate the country. He's not having that many kids.
The only way they win this fight is by trying to make it where we're all against immigrants. Not illegal immigrants, but immigrants. So it has to be that we don't hate people who broke the law and who have subverted our country's laws to get in here and exploiting our resources and our kindness. We're against immigrants in general. That's the only way they win here on an ethical level. That's kind of that's why they always forget the word.
That's the straw man. Yeah, that's the straw man that they make.
I gotta pound back on this. It's freaking pioneers. An immigrant is someone who comes to a place that has been built and freaking civilized and all that stuff This
and conquered.
This country was built by pioneers. It wasn't built by immigrants.
The
immigrants were the people who came after it was built.
Yeah, so you would identify them as settlers, not immigrants.
Right.
But at the end of the day, which one is it though? Because on one side of their mouth they say, "Oh, this country's built by immigrants." The other side of the mouth they say it was built by slaves. So which one is it? Like, I guess that depends on what day it is.
Involuntary immigrants.
It's kind of like how, you know, Hispanics are white sometimes and minorities another time, or brown sometimes. It depends on like whether we vote Republican or not. If we vote Republican, we're white.
You could also identify Superman as a refugee, perhaps, but not an immigrant. He wasn't actively choosing, I'm going there for a better life. It's like their planet was blowing up and they were forced to leave. And if they had the preference, they would have stayed because they liked their home, and it was probably more superior.
They didn't send him here so that he could make more money than he could on Krypton.
No, Krypton probably had better, resources and technology and a much superior civilization that they would have liked to have stayed, but they were forced to leave because the planets blew up. These are not equivalent things. And to try and shoehorn in a political message equating Superman's situation with modern day immigration is just retarded.
Right, and that's kind of Superman's thing, is he's supposed to symbolize everybody. He's not supposed to take one political stance on one hot button political issue and divide the DC audience or the movie going audience. This is just bad juju.
Yeah. And so even like, we have some discussion like no refugees have to actually ask for refugee status. So he would be, he's a baby. He can't really ask.
Right. Infants
but if he could, I'm assuming he would, right? And also he would be classified as an asylum seeker as well by default, I would say. Right. And again, massive false equivalences if they're trying to force this to be like, modern day immigration, okay, where Superman clearly was in different circumstances and equates for different things, right, than people breaking the law to enter a country illegally because it has better welfare and other things. And I'm actually, if you want to know my views on immigration, I am less opposed to it if they don't get welfare benefits and they're coming to the country to make a life and be productive.
That's very Milton Friedman. You can either have a welfare state or you can have unfettered immigration. You can't have both.
Right. And without welfare, people know that they have to go to that country to make a life for themselves. They have to be productive and contribute back to that society by building a business, working, and other things like that. And
they got to have a pioneer mentality, right?
Yeah. And in that sense, I think that type of immigration can attract productive people that want to help build. There's another side to it about cultural heritage that I think is worthy of preserving. And like for instance, shocker, I'm not British, but I think the Britain continent belonged to the British because that is literally their cultural heritage. Also, that's where they racially, come from as well, right? But a place like Australia, right, that was barely populated at all. People will reference, of course, the Aboriginals, but the population was tiny, and there's
but what were they doing with it?
Nothing, mostly nothing, right? No. The country was mostly uninhabited, right? And
it was Native Americans here. They're basically cavemen.
Australia is
long story short,
more extreme example, right? Where it was a prime country that was ready for settlement, and it is a country built off of immigration. And I say the country was built off of immigration because people say there was technically no. The Aboriginal culture barely had civilization. All right, they lived in the Australian continent for years upon years and didn't really develop or progress much. And oh my gosh, the stuff that they struggled with in terms of sickness, exposure, and death, and everything like that was in the extreme. There was a practice in the Aboriginal native inhabitants where if they couldn't get enough food to support their new children, they would just abandon the baby and leave and let them starve to death and die because the resources was so hard to come by. And because they hadn't developed larger, cultivation techniques to grow more food. And
they couldn't figure out how to kill kangaroos.
Oh no, they could, but they never cultivated crops in large scale, and even if there were pockets where they might have, it never caught on, and they never established herding animals and stuff. And there's a couple of it actually gets kind of interesting and complicated as to, what kind of native fauna and animals that might have worked in terms of establishing civilization and helping, the native inhabitants develop out of their kind of tribalistic nature, right? But going back to the point, this country, Australia, was built off of immigration, people coming here and then being productive. And I'm more open to the whole idea of, the cultural melting pot thing in Australia, because there is not as strong a solid cultural heritage for all the people that live here that we can be a bit of a mix here in Australia. And I'm open to that. But if we go to, I think it's good that Japan wants to stay Japanese. I think it's good that, certain countries in Africa might want to stay African. And I think it's really good that the British want to remain British. They have a strong cultural heritage that ties them to their ethnicity. That's, I think, unfettered immigration affects quite a lot.
I'm writing off that point. Yeah, man, when I was growing up, we were taught that America was that melting pot. And then later on, they started teaching kids that it's like a salad, like everybody's separate in their thing. It's like, what happened to the freaking melting pot? What happened to everyone merging together all their different cultures and creating an American culture? No. Let's just divide everybody by the cultures they came from and make sure they don't integrate into America at all. It's like, that's not how you can have a unified country like that.
Yeah. And part of that is Australia does have a strong cultural identity, which is based on Western values, indeed, even Christianity and stuff. And if you want to come here and be Australian,
and prison rules.
Nah, not anymore. But if you want to come here and be an Australian, doesn't matter what color skin you have, the race you have, everything, you can be an Australian if you adopt our values, okay? And that is part of integrating. That's speaking the same language. That's not segregating yourself into these communities, all right? They're separate and then holding different values and stuff. No, come to Australia to be an Australian. Come to America to be an American. And so these are the kind of the views that we have, leaning more on the right side of stuff. And so the concern about Superman is if it's going to be a subversive, progressive / left, propaganda. And that's what it is sounding like, especially with the politics of the people making it. Okay. And then just misinterpreting that Superman story is an immigration story. It's like, no, it's not really like Superman. He came as a baby and was raised as an American citizen. Okay, he's about as American as you can get. It's more of an adoption story than it is even close to an immigration story.
Well, it's Moses' story.
Yeah, well, that's part of the inspiration aspect of it as well. And so that part play says the decision to frame Clark Kent's journey as a metaphor for immigration isn't new, but the Times interview put Superman squarely in the crosshairs of today's deeply divided political landscape. When asked about how audience might react to the film's themes, Gunn didn't hold back. He says this: yes, it plays differently, but it's about human kindness, he said. And I wonder about this, like, hang on, is his take on kindness going to be that you should allow any number of people into the country illegally because that's the kind thing to do? And it's like, hold up. No, that's not the take that a lot of people would agree with there, James, because there's a lot of people that come into certain countries illegally that are criminals and then they commit crime, and having issues with that, I think, is perfectly reasonable. But it's like, no, you should have let everyone in because that's just the kind thing to do. It's like, hang on a second.
Here's the weird thing, though. Like, the headline phrases this very differently than what he actually said. The headline's like, oh, yeah, the immigration is great. And screw you guys if you don't like it. So what he actually said was, yes, it plays differently, but it's about human kindness. And obviously there will be jerks out there who are not kind. And will take it as an offensive just because it's about kindness. But screw them. So it's like, that's way different than what the
It
headline
is,
said he said.
Oh, I don't know, because I think he's trying to frame his politics as kindness, and that's the false.
That's the
premise
main
that
issue.
is leading. That's the issue. It's like, my politics are just the politics of kindness, and if you disagree with it, screw you. And it's like, hang on. We disagree with your politics being defined as kindness. We kind of talked about what kindness was in the beginning. I don't think just letting anyone into a country unfettered is kind. Okay, I think it can be very cruel to the citizens of the country, especially if there's a lot of criminals coming in and other things like that. And just on an economic level, what that does to people's prospects and job opportunities and everything like that. Okay. It gets so much more complicated than just trying to simplify and reduce it down to, it's just being kind. And it's like,
define what do you mean by kindness?
Kids anything about economics in school, because the law of supply and demand means if you keep pumping in more workers,
that's kind of like
paid what they're worth.
That's kind of the conservative thing, where it's like, how about the logistics and the realization, like the realities of the situation versus the leftist thing, which is everything's great. Come on in. We should just take everybody. It's like this no realism at all. There's like no attention to how we're going to do this, how we're going to feed everybody. Where's the money going to come from? Like, there's no attention to any of that. It's just basically revolves around, what makes us feel good. What's the nice thing to do.
It's like they think we live in utopia. And there's no cost.
Infinite resources.
Right.
Yeah. And what this comes off like, this does feel like James Gunn is basically implying that if you do not agree with my politics, you are not kind and you're just a jerk. So screw you. That's what it feels like. And to me, these statements, these are massive red flags for the film. Like, holy crap.
And we're gonna need to see what he means by kindness. That's kind of where this whole thing hinges on. What does he mean by kindness?
Well, we'll get to see in the film, but I am concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to go see it. I already bought my tickets and everything.
I'll be watching this. I'll be reviewing it. Even though I'm traveling, I have a day set aside for my schedule just to watch it and then get a review out and see what happened. And look, I like Jeremy's reaction to this on Twitter, where this has been dropping on Twitter. Many people, said this was Variety. James Gunn Superman encompasses a story of America and is about a man searching for a better life from his original. No, Superman was a baby. He had no concept of searching for a better life. All right. It's an adoption story, not an immigrant story. And if you really want to push it, it's an asylum seeking story, not an immigrant. But it's like, he was a man seeking a better life. He was a baby.
It's also sort of a thank God I ended up in America.
Yes, story.
Bangladesh.
They hate religion. So the thing, this kind of the thing that they do with a lot of these movies that have a religious context to them, where they kind of just remove the religious aspect to them. So yeah, instead of having it be the Moses story, they have to make it the immigrant story, because it fits their politics and it's more secular. Because you can't have dirty, filthy religion in your lefty movies.
And Jeremy's reply here with the picture. Our expectations are low, but holy, like,
it's really low now.
That's kind of my reaction. It's like, I hope this isn't true. I because I'm worried now that it's going to be woke as hell with subversive political propaganda in it. And it's not to say media can't be political, right? But it's like, if you want to do it and not alienate half of the audience, you want your politics to be more universally accepted truths, right? And that's good. That's what superheroes always exemplified at their core, were universal truths. But those universal truths, certain extremists on the left, and a lot of them, find that offensive. Like the fact that a lot of the concepts and themes of superheroes is tied in with masculine virtue and identity.
Well, the word truth offends most leftists. So.
Well, there's that as well. Okay. And so by James Gunn's own admission, the film will explore morality. And like I said, I don't have a problem with exploring morality, but if your exploration of morality is conservative beliefs bad, leftist beliefs kind and good, and you're just a jerk, like, that's not an exploration of morality. That's propaganda, mate. Explore conflict and clashing values, particularly between Superman and Lois Lane. I don't know. It will be down to execution. These are red flags. We haven't seen the film yet. We'll have to see what it's like. And then he says, yes, it's about politics, but on another level, it's about morality. It's like, Again, that just comes off like my politics are the right ones, my politics are the moral kind ones, and anyone who disagrees is evil, right? That's what that comes off. It's like, it's because, does it not come off that way when he says that? It's not really politics, it's about morality, because I'm right. That's what it feels like. So Gunn continued, do you never kill no matter what? All right, that's something that is interesting. That might be an interesting expression. Which is what Superman believes, or do you have some balance? As Lois believes, it's really about their relationship and the way different opinions or basic moral beliefs can tear two people apart. Interesting. And I say it because all right, that's something that might work if you try and avoid the whole immigration kind of political stuff and explore something like this, that might be more interesting. Okay. But again, I worry that this is him actually gaslighting and saying, "Oh, it's really going to be focused on Lois Lane," when there's it might have all this other heavy-handed political propaganda.
Because we also heard that it's going to be heavily focused on crypto. So, which is it going to be Lois Lane and then also crypto?
I don't know. I'm worried about crypto.
And we've seen time and time again. We've seen multiple times where like they have interviews. Where the actors or the directors will say, "Oh yeah, it's really heavily political. It's got this huge political slant." And we watch the movie, and then it's in there. So
yeah, right. They tried to do that with the House of the Dragon. They tried to politicize the hell out of it. When it came out, it wasn't even there. It's like, no, it's actually there's some conservative values portrayed in that, like the importance of fatherhood and what a father needs to do to try and keep peace.
Well, it has to be because it's like basically a medieval fantasy tale, so you can't do that with a bunch of liberal views.
But that they were trying to present it, that was this message about feminism and all that stuff, and there was a complete misrepresentation of the show. And by the way, this is also proof that we judge the work when as on its merits as it comes out, even though if there's red flags, we'll see sometimes. More often, those red flags are confirmed, like Rings of Power, in a big way. We knew Rings of Power was going to be a disaster, but we judged it on its merits, and holy crap, it was worse than we were expecting. It was so much worse. But there are other times when red flags were actually, our expectations were subverted, like House of the Dragon, like Dungeons and Dragons, the film Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed it, but the comments by the director, something about like I forget exactly. It was something against masculinity.
They want like they love emasculating their male characters. That's what they said. What it was, and they know that was like a bad thing. It's like no, not for woke reasons, but they're trying to defend it.
That was such a colossal red flag. It's such a dumb statement because that wasn't what the film was about in any measure. In actual fact,
it was good.
Like. The main character has some good masculine virtues in him. And so it was such a dumb comment. Again, Litdev, it goes into that exact tweet where people make a lot of leftists making media just make good stuff by accident because they think they're injecting a message which is completely absent and non existent in the thing. It's like, do you guys even know how to make stuff if you don't even know how to convey the message you want? And it actually ends up
like the Barbie movie.
Yeah, where Ken became the ultimate star. And Archie Bunker, they tried to make Archie Bunker like this right wing, like racist asshole, and everyone loved him.
Yep.
Like, so Barbie is funny, right? Because that's the movie my son's year level is studying. And so I was like, oh, really? Is it, son? So we sat down and we watched it together, and I went through in detail what the messages were. And he was like, he was just baffled because then I got to the part where it's like, Ken's actually the good guy in this film, but they're trying to make you want to dislike him. He's the villain, he's the antagonist, but he's actually the good guy. And it was just funny pointing that out to my son, and my son just couldn't believe that they were that incompetent that they were trying to put this, message through, and they failed so dramatically at it. And so it's just interesting how pertinent your tweet is, Litdev, to all of that, because it plays the exact same thing where we've seen it with like Dungeons and Dragons, House of the Dragon, and in part, the Barbie film. I want to bring up your tweet again because your statement, as you say, just gold for that. The whole conservatives can't make art assertion becomes amusing when you realize that so much of the greatest things made by leftists were made entirely by accident. I kind of get that impression with like Dungeons and Dragons.
A lot of it.
The director outright said, "Oh, we love emasculating our male heroes," and it's like that's not what happens in the film. But you're the guy who made it, so it must be just completely accidental. So will that be the case for Superman? Will it be as political as they're saying? And will it focus on these types of moral kind of conundrums about, should he never kill? Should he kill kind of thing? I think that's actually an interesting discussion in the superhero context. I agree. Yep. Or is it going to be all about immigration and online toxicity? And because if it's about online toxicity, I get the feeling that like we've seen what they love, who they love to try and, characterize the toxic element of online discourse, like they did with She-Hulk, right? It was just the haters of She-Hulk online. They were bad people that they portray. Basically, people like us, people who are critical of woke nonsense, they're the actual toxic people online. Not the people trying to cancel and ruin people's lives for stupid, inconsequential things. That's actually good and justly, because that's just consequence culture, people, right? That's fine. They're not gonna, try and have a message against that. It's about people being mean online, and when they say mean, it's just being critical. And it's not actually, a lot of the criticisms isn't maliciously intended. It's just valid criticisms against something that is really, really dumb. And here's a good example of valid criticisms that is now being framed as bad and toxic and shouldn't be, how dare anyone, right? And this is the caricature that I worried the Superman film might, like, it's so much meanness online. I wonder if it's going to be stuff like this. Like the fact that this was one of the worst castings in the history of media. This guy cast as Snape, one of the worst castings ever, right? And now look what they're already coming out with. Jason Isaac calls out racist fans for being rude about Papa Eswadu's Snape casting. They'll be swallowing their tongues.
I didn't think so.
I think that sometimes it feels like the only reason they do these race swaps is to get this reaction. And even if they don't get the reaction, they'll say they got that reaction because they're like, "Oh, we got to go see it to support these actors."
Well, they try and drum up controversy and sympathy by pushing this racist narrative when there's not. It's like, this guy is a terrible casting choice for Snape. Okay, flat. He does not look like Snape in any measure. Now, I've been critical of castings where it's a white person casting a white role and they look nothing like the role. I'm critical of that, right? Like, imagine if who's the guy that plays the main character in the Dune films? What's the actor's name?
Timothée Chalamet.
Imagine if Timothée Chalamet was cast as Conan, right? I'll be like, are you friggin' kidding me? But guess what? There's been castings where a black person was cast in a white role that I was like, I can kind of see it. Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. Best example I can always reference, right?
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
What was it? Okay, so Nicolas Cage became a living meme because they cast him as Superman once, or they were going to.
Yeah, right.
He's white, but he does not look like Superman.
He does not look like Superman. So it's not always about skin color, okay? Sometimes it is, though, because Snape is described as having really pale, what is it, like sallow skin even? And so that's a very key identifying feature of his appearance right there. This is worst casting.
Well, for some reason, it reminded me of how fandom cringed for some reason at the casting of Gal Gadot at Wonder Woman, and then totally ate their words after.
Yeah. Well, I doubt we're going to be eating our words with this because
no,
it's so far divorced and removed from what Snape is supposed to look like. But they're just, it's the same stupid playbook. They're just racists. It calls out racists for being rude about Papa Eswadu's Snape. Now, I'm not saying there might not have been racist comments about his casting. Okay, people can be pretty stupid online, but the problem with comments like that is that if you're not being specific, you're just throwing everyone who is critical of this casting into the same bag, right? And my worry in regards to Superman is that the fact that fans can have a strong, backlash to dumb things made, dumb choices made, that's the nastiness, the online nastiness that they're going to talk about in the Superman film, not the actual real toxicity that is a problem with online discourse. We'll have to wait and see as it comes out. Maybe we'll be wrong, but these are red flags. And I have to say, every single bit of promotional material I've seen, and if not every single bit, 90% of it, all right, has made this film look worse. And it's like, I'm worried. I love Superman. I want a good Superman film, but this does not make me, enthusiastic about it. What do you guys think? Do you think this is just like the worst marketing campaign they've ever done for a film, and it might be good, or it's all like, nah, it's red flags. This film is going to suck.
I mean, considering that a lot of people voted for Trump for the immigration thing because he'll be harder on immigration, and considering that the poll after poll after poll since then showed us that a vast majority of Americans supported, having strong borders and everything. This was really stupid to say if you want to sell this movie to a vast majority of Americans.
So dumb. My gosh. And again and again, like I said, so many of the marketing things, just so stupid. Oh,
even if you believe yourself to be right, even if you go in with the best of intentions, if you do like modern day current year politics right now and have a strong stance on it, you're going to get a divisive fan base. And so that might be fine for like an art film or something, but when you're trying to make this big giant budget film that needs a lot of money, and you just want to sell this to a lot of people,
100%. That goes into.
You want more universal truths than here's my stance on politics,
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
You actually want truth, justice, and the American way.
You need that.
Yeah.
If you want to appeal to the widest audience possible, you need a uplifting message about those universal truths that most people can get on board with and agree with. If you're going to have a subversive political message to push an agenda, that's pandering to only half the audience that you might get otherwise. And that's the risk what this is going down now.
Less than half, because those people don't have money.
Well, yeah. So less than half, meaning. So we'll have to see. We'll just have to see. I'm concerned. I hope this is just stupid comments about it. And the film's like tomorrow or the day after it's coming out. It's right around the corner. When is it out for you guys? Because I'm a day ahead.
I think it's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? It should have been July 4th.
Well, that'd be too American.
Well, that's
fair point.
We are actually cutting this live stream a little short today because I have a flight to catch. So I'm going to catch the super chats and we'll start to wrap up a little early today. So Realm Never to Be Seen for $5 says Superman was a literal baby toddler and was adopted by citizens of the country he sought asylum in. Thank you for the super chat. I would even say that I'm not even sure he could have been seeking asylum as a baby, but that's just like the default that people would assume is there. But yeah, I would say it's actually an adoption story more than it is.
Yeah, he's more akin to like if Angelina Jolie had found him on another continent.
Well, and then Realm Never to Be Seen for $5 says kindness to be cruel is cruelty to the good, and then that's attributed to. Kindness to the cruel is cruelty to the good. Interesting.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for the super chat. And thank you everyone for joining us. As I said, wrapping up early today. And so, Mike, is there anything that you want to mention as we start to sign off?
I should have thought of something. But no, if you want to join me over on Whatnot and watch me draw stuff and maybe get a commission or something, just search my name on whatnot.com. And you could do that.
Very true. And Dev, anything you want to mention as we sign off?
Not yet. Just working on my latest video, getting that done. Working on several videos at the same time. But next one is going to be about girl bosses and what exactly is a girl boss and what makes it so. And I came up with a formula. that should work. That kind of works out. Like, okay, this simple formula they can keep in mind. So working on that.
Mm-hmm. I actually just want to respond to this comment because it's interesting. Like, not a legal adoption, though. It was for the best, I agree. But he really is an illegal alien. That's just reality. He's literally an alien, like an alien from another planet. And in that sense, can he be an illegal? Like, do we have a policy on aliens from other planets? Okay. Now, in terms of him being an illegal, alien in the sense of coming from another country illegally, right? It's a false equivalence. These are not equivalent things. To equate Superman in the same category as people coming from other countries illegally into a thing, it just doesn't work, because literally Superman is from another planet, not another country. Is a baby, and it's more close to asylum, stuff like that. And so,
yeah, he's a refugee. He's not an alien. I mean, he's alien in the sense of that sense, but he's not illegal. He's a refugee.
I'd be interested to know if there was a policy on aliens from another planet kind of thing. It's not something we had to deal with as of yet. And so, but my take on that is that it would be false to equate Superman to immigrants from another country, because it's so divorced from what's actually going on. He is a real alien without parents, sent, without his knowledge, to a planet that could have landed anywhere on any country for all they knew. And more so, this is like, as I say, it's more like an adoption story where a family wanted to adopt a child from another country, right? What is that called? Because that's not immigration per se, is it? Because the parents can, adopt a child from another country and then have them become a citizen. All right. Yeah. That's what is going on here, more than anything. But thank you.
Also, if you want to make a policy, run it through the government and say, hey, if any baby just appears in America, they are instant refugees, then by all means. That doesn't really happen except in fiction, but there you go.
There we go.
Except the ones that are coyoted across by people that aren't there.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you on the next actually next week is a maybe, because I'm traveling and I might not be back in time, and so it's up in the air if we'll have the Culture Crusade next week, but we will be back eventually. But thank you everyone, and we'll see you later. So until next time, stay on watch.